And we're back for the second time this week. We have a really great guest coming on later on the show. We got Parker Fleming of Subtsakalidis, which I think is how you pronounce it. And I'm going to double check with him because it is hard to spell. But anyway, we've got some real NBA news to talk about. And I want to touch on college basketball just started, which we'll talk on with a guest, next week about that. But I want to kind of touch on some guys that, they look really good. But first, Giannis, what a shot against the Pacers. The Bucks barely beat the Pacers. It was an absurd fourth quarter, and game is tied, and Giannis takes the ball up. He's got about, 8 seconds remaining. He dribbles up. Siakam's on him. AJ Green comes and sets the pick, switches Giannis onto Nesmith. And Nesmith has been great defensively, awesome defensive player. Giannis steps up inside the arc, takes a couple dribbles, posts him up, high post. He's kind of got him over his shoulder. And then he turns around and turns into Dirk Nowitzki and hits the jumper with no time remaining. And you could just hear the Pacers broadcast just deflate. I mean, it was the softest, oh, he hit it, of all time. And then, of course, they give him his flowers. But, man, absolutely brutal for Pacers fans in the building. And Giannis was waving him off. And also, Pacers fans booing Miles Turner was kind of weird. Didn't really like that, to be honest. I mean, Miles Turner was a perennial trade candidate there and gave everything he could to the city, and they didn't want to pay him. I mean, what are you going to do? It's not his fault. But anyway, the Bucks look good just because Giannis has ascended to MVP form once again. And I think that's one thing. We keep getting fatigue with these guys. Jokic, Giannis. To some extent, we even had it with Doncic, even though he's never won MVP. It's these guys are so good, and they're so good for so long and so consistent that we almost underrate their prospects of being top tier players all the time and top tier MVP contenders all the time. I mean, Giannis is averaging over 34 points a game, which is crazy. And still, I don't think people have him atop their MVP ladder. That may change, but he's underrated. And that feels weird to say. And this Bucks roster is not the best roster he's ever been surrounded by, but there's been some contributors here and there. Ryan Rollins, like I talked about on the last podcast. You got AJ Green is analytically just incredible. And when you want a guy to actually set screens for Giannis, despite, being shorter than Giannis, but set screens for Giannis and then pop back out to the perimeter and hit some threes, AJ Green is your guy. And Miles Turner has been statistically not great, but when he's on the court, the Bucks are winning. So you kind of can't blame the guy too much. But yeah, the Bucks look good. The Pacers are extremely injured and continue to be. And this is just one of those reset seasons, but tough loss against the Bucks. Speaking of teams that I didn't expect to be as good as they are, the Jazz continue to look way better than expected. They beat the Celtics. Now, admittedly, the Celtics aren't the same this season, but still, they got some guys. They beat the Celtics 105-103. Keyonte George continues to be an absolute flamethrower. He is one of those guys where, no, he can't play defense at all. The analytics on this man's defense are downright horrendous. But can he shoot? Yeah. Can he pass the ball? Yeah. Can he rebound? Surprisingly, yeah. Better than his size would imply. And he continues to just create space so effortlessly for a guy that is on a team that is supposed to be really bad. Lauri Markkanen actually wasn't as good this game, but, Keyonte George stepped up, and all these guys they just play fun basketball. Kind of a good league pass watch. Kind of like the very much worse version of the Bulls, where everybody's kind of got this weird skill set and very amorphous, and they all work together really fun. And like I said, Danny Ainge is going to ship Lauri Markkanen out if they keep winning games. But right now, I mean, Keyonte George, they just opted into his team option, I believe. Same thing with Cody Williams, which that's a completely different scenario. Not even going to talk about the terribleness of Cody Williams right here. But the main point is everybody on this team is young except for Markkanen. And though we don't know what's going to happen with Walker Kessler, who's been a rebounding machine as always, this team has a good building base, and now they really need that one de facto star that isn't Lauri Markkanen, right? As for the Celtics, kind of weird. Very, very weird game for them in my mind, because you look at the box score and it's like, oh, Jaylen Brown put up 36 points. Jaylen Brown can score. We know this. But then he went 0 of 9 from 3. And that's what kind of concerns me about him and really just the broader state of how he fits into the offense without Jason Tatum. And when he, is always having the ball in his hands. I've long been a guy where it's like, I don't think Jaylen Brown is statistically the guy for the Celtics, and I don't think he can be. Sure, he won Finals MVP. Great. He did it for a series. Awesome. Can't take that away from him. But in terms of playing efficient offense that continually contributes to winning, I just don't think he can do it. And at a certain point, the Celtics, and I talked about this with Adam Taylor on the previous episode, at a certain point, the Celtics are going to have to make a decision between him and Derrick White, just because that's the way the salary cap is working. And he's making tons of money right now. And I don't know if it's worth it. And will they end up trading him? I have no idea. But I just don't think he's very conducive to winning compared to Derrick White, who is analytically extremely conducive to winning. And if you know anything about me, I'm a big analytics guy. Yes, I love the eye test too. And I don't want to lean too heavy into the analytics, but you look at the broader state of the Celtics roster, you would rather have Derrick White at Derrick White's contract price versus Jaylen Brown at Jaylen Brown's contract price. And that may be a little controversial, but that's kind of where I stand on it. The Lakers continue to be good despite losing every single one of their players that knows how to play superstar level basketball. Of course, Doncic has been out. Reeves was out this game against the Blazers. LeBron's still out with sciatica, and somehow the Lakers beat the Blazers. And Deandre Ayton, man, I talked about him a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, this guy plays like he has soup in his pockets. He does not embrace contact. He is not physical enough for this team. And what do you know? He is physical enough for this team, and he's finally embracing it. I think JJ Redick's really brought that out of him, right? In this game, he had 29 points, 10 rebounds, 14 of 19 shooting. He's actually like getting to the rim, bullying guys, and grabbing boards, which is something that I don't think we've seen from him in a long time. We certainly didn't see it when he was with the Blazers. Kind of like a revenge game for him, dominating his ruminating on his contemplating game, and that's just an excuse to use his nicknames the entire sentence. But Ayton's been great, and he has been so efficient. His contract is cheap. Lakers did such a good job with him, and surprisingly, even without Doncic on the court, he looks really good. So good on him. Weird loss for the Blazers, losing to like the Lakers rec league squad. I mean, let's be real. Bronny James was out there getting real minutes, and no disrespect to Bronny, but like, if he's getting real rotation minutes at this stage of his career right now, you don't really have the guys. But yeah, weird loss for the Blazers. In our news, Dylan Harper, who was an early favorite for Rookie of the Year, not the favorite, certainly, but statistically great. I mean, he was averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 50% field goal on 23 minutes per game. He will be out for at least a little bit. It's an undetermined amount of time, and you always hate when teams show the quote-unquote indefinitely, even though that's not really how the term works. But he's going to be out with a calf strain, and we've seen a lot with guys that are explosive, and he's functionally explosive. He's not like a VJ Edgecombe, but he's functionally explosive. You see these guys with their calf strains, and you get worried about the Achilles, right? And some people say there's no connection, whatever, but I think the Spurs are obviously going to slow play him. I mean, he's been great early on. Stephon Castle's also been great, so it's not that big of a deal. But sad to see Dylan Harper go down, and the problem with that is he's probably going to be ineligible for Rookie of the Year, just because you have to play a certain amount of games due to the NBA's rules. So that being said, I'm not a gambling man, but if you put a bet on Dylan Harper to win Rookie of the Year, not looking too good right now. Also, college ball started, and this class, it's been 1 game, 2 games, but this class looks good. This class looks really, really good. And some guys that I didn't expect to really show out day one, they showed out. But we can start at the top. The big talk of pretty much the first day was Arizona's Koa Peat. And that's Peat, P-E-A-T, if you're not keeping up. And he looked like the best freshman in the nation for Arizona. And he had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists on 61% shooting. And he tore up Florida's defense. And Florida, of course, is reigning national champion. Missing some guys, I get it. But Koa Peat looked really good. I was really impressed with just his ability to handle the ball and actually finish through contact. The only thing I'm concerned with is his shot. I've seen his mechanics before, and his mechanics are wonky. And he did not take a single 3 in this game. And that's something I'm going to want to watch for the coming months, is if he wants to be a solidified top 4 pick, right now he's generally top 8 mock drafts, top 10. He's going to have to develop a shot. And we've seen guys that come to the league and don't have a shot, and they're just good finishers at the rim. It's really hard to make it in this league like that. Even as much as I love Amen Thompson, that's going to be Amen Thompson's struggle until he develops a jumper to, really jump to the superstar level. And even Giannis now, I mean, he's having to develop something of a jumper to prolong his game. And I'm just not seeing that with Peat right now, but also the kid's young. He's a freshman. So also in terms of hyped players in history, Dybantsa, I feel like he's been on the radar for, my goodness, 5 years now, 6 years, 7 years even, training with LeBron, training with KD, training with all these guys. He's with BYU this season, freshman. Looked good, pretty under control. I was really impressed. 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. With the score tied at 59, he recorded 6 of the next 8 points. So really, really clutch this game. And his finishing through contact wasn't what I wanted to see. It's kind of the thing with Peat. Like, you flip it. It's like Peat's great finishing through contact during that game. Dybantsa looked good as a shooter, but didn't look as good around the rim. Got rejected a couple times, but good showing. I mean, he's going to be presumed top 3 selection. I'm nitpicking here, to be honest. He looks like he could be a number 1 pick in most draft classes. That's just kind of how it goes. Speaking of number 1 picks, the potential number 1 pick, Peterson, had 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in 17 minutes for Kansas. He did not have to play the vast majority of the second half because the game was already out of hand, but he looked really good. I think in a vacuum, I'd say he performed better than Dybantsa just because, the stats through half, 18 points and a half. It's ridiculous. And he was efficient. He looked good. And he's just got that jumbo guard mold, right? And Coach Bill Self, he was like, yeah, this is the best prospect I've had come to Kansas as a freshman. And that's high praise. You've had Joel Embiid come through the system. He looks really good. And I kind of want to see how he performs. Also, as of recording this, Cam Boozer for Duke has not played yet, and I'll probably be talking about him on a weekend piece just because I really want to see how he performs against, all this competition. He's probably the most efficient or prolific youth scorer and youth prospect we've seen in years, but I want to see him do it at the next level, so we'll see how that goes. Also, lastly, random guy of note that I don't feel like enough people are talking about. I talked about him a little bit last year, but he didn't actually go into the draft. He pulled out late. But Bruce Thornton. So Bruce Thornton is a senior with Ohio State, and he's got the age factor going against him. I get it, 22. He's only 6'2", so you worry about the size. But he's built like a brick, or like I saw somebody call him a bowling ball, which is pretty accurate. He looked really good against IU Indianapolis. Is that good competition? No. Not at all. It is terrible competition for Ohio State. But, the stats kind of speak for themselves. He put up 26 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds on 70% shooting. And last year, my stats-based model that I kind of did a little bit internally, tested a little bit, it was really high on him, like unreasonably high, like this guy's top 10 pick high. And of course, that's not correct, but the stats loved this guy because he's efficient at steals. He gets boards. He can pass the ball. He's physical, and when he's on the court, his teams perform better, right? So if he continues this kind of play, this is a guy you could see maybe fringe first round, early second round. I don't see him going any higher than, say, like 25th per se. But he's a guy that looks like he could be a good contributor at the next level if he doesn't get played off the court because of his size. And I think because of his game, he's not going to get played off the court. So really high on him. A couple other guys I'm watching. But we'll talk about that more next week when I'm bringing on a specific guest for the college game. But before we go to next week, we have to do this week. And we're about to talk with Parker Fleming of Subtsakalidis, which once again, we are going to ask him how the heck you say it. And Memphis Grizzlies basketball. Let's get it. And we got our resident Memphis Grizzlies expert, Parker Fleming of Subtsakalidis, the most hard to pronounce and hard to spell Substack on my radar right now. Parker, how are we doing?
Jake, I'm doing great, man. You're doing great stuff with your Substack as well, and not even just with the hoops. You're getting into like the tech world, right? I see that
yeah,
too. So.
I try to be a little bit everywhere. I got
Yeah,
basketball stuff going on, got tech stuff going on, got all sorts of stuff. But we stay busy. You gotta stay busy.
100%. But yeah, dude, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I didn't have a Grizzlies hat, so like I pulled out my Smokey Bear hat. It was like the
There you go.
next best thing. I don't know if Smokey Bear technically counts as a grizzly bear. I'd have to
We'll
look.
count it. We'll count it
Yeah,
for
we'll
sure.
count it. I don't know the Smokey Bear lore.
He's probably a fan. So
Yeah, he's
yeah.
probably a fan, probably close enough. But yeah, I just wanted to talk some Grizzlies with you. It's been a little bit of a weird start to the season for you guys, but before we dive into, the good, the bad, how are you feeling as a Grizzlies fan right now?
It's actually funny because I think we've been trying to do this podcast for about, I think we were trying to do it last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this week's podcast will probably get you a little bit more clicks and might have some more fun stuff to talk about. After what transpired over Halloween weekend, definitely spooky indeed.
Yes.
So I will say how I'm feeling. I know we'll get into more specifics. I'd had the take. Because let's be real, I didn't think the start of the season would be that good. I thought it'd be okay. My whole thought process was, right now as we're recording, they're 3-5, so not looking great right now. But I just said stay 500 until Zach Edey and Ty Jerome are back. Really, is more like, no disrespect to Ty Jerome, I'm incredibly high on Ty Jerome as a Memphis Grizzly. I was more about let's see what happens when Zach Edey's back. He was very good in East Lo's system to close the year, and just the biggest thing is he's just a legitimate a incredibly massive, no pun intended, upgrade over Jock Landale. Who Jock Landale's been fine. He's been great.
Yes, serviceable.
I will even say for his role, he's been very overtaxed, and he's still been rather productive if you look across the board. I mean, his numbers on a per 36-minute basis aren't great, but averaging 2.6 offensive rebounds per game, 1.4 assists. He's shooting 56% from 3 on 2.3 attempts per game. Small sample theater, but still, it's like, okay, but still, be 500 until Zach Edey's back. And I think now there are just bigger problems to fry. And I think Zach Edey still fixes a lot of them. Ty Jerome still fixes a lot of them, but there's some stuff that needs to be fixed for sure. Something needs to be addressed.
Yeah, before we get into the specifics of the good, the bad, I'll just give kind of an overview for everyone listening. Right now, the Grizzlies, as of recording, are bottom 5 in offensive rating, bottom 7 in defensive rating, 25th in net rating, 12th in the West, and per Neil Payne's forecasting model, they have a 24% chance of making the playoffs. And the last game before this recording was their game against the Pistons on Monday. They lost 114-106. Jaren Jackson Jr. only had 4 rebounds. Ja Morant went 5 of 16 en route to an 18-point game. KCP went 0 for 6 from the floor. And the only lone bright spot was probably Cedric Coward, who we'll talk about in a moment. But the injuries have been the storyline, right? I mean, Brandon Clark, right knee synovitis, which he's expected to be out until at least November 18th. Ty Jerome, calf strain. Calf strains are kind of killing the league right now just because everybody's kind of scared of the Achilles stuff. He's going to be out till at least November 18th. Scottie Pippen Jr., left big toe procedure, and he will be out for probably at least 12 weeks, maybe 10 weeks at this point. And then Zach Edey hopefully is going to come back either later this week or next week from an ankle injury. All of that being said, what is one thing that you've liked from the Grizzlies thus far, despite kind of the chaos that's going on?
Cedric Coward for sure. And it's one of those things where, I've been trying, like, it's one of those things you get excited about these young players. It's very easy, Jacob, one thing I really like about your Substack is you are not afraid to get into the nitty gritty on some fun role players, some young guys that are catching your eye. The Grizzlies, you've had to learn, because the Grizzlies have had this kind of bit where it's like guys look at their best at their rookie season, and then they just kind of plateau, Happened with David Roddy. You're kind of experiencing that whole thing with G.T. Jackson.
Big body
right
Roddy.
Now.
My goodness.
Big body Roddy. Yeah. And then, I mean, you've had players like Brandon Clark and Xavier Tillman who, like, they had the sophomore slump, but they bounced back and looked better and more impactful than they did as a rookie. And then right now, obviously, everyone's kind of just monitoring Jalen Wells. Has not shot the ball well to start the year. I still think he'll get there. But with Cedric Coward, something just feels different than all of them, because everything looks so effortless.
So effortless.
The 3-ball. The one thing I wrote about it last week. Just simply, I try not to get into strong takes 5 games in. I try not to take too much significantly from like a 5. I try to stay within a 10 to 15 game sample. Just, I'm tracking this to monitor and then build from there. But with Cedric Coward, overarching takeaway so far is that he needs to play a lot. Like, he needs to play as much as Ja and Jaren, in my opinion. Because, I look at the shot prep. He's shooting the ball extremely well. He's always shot the ball extremely well, dating back to his D3 days. And it's one of those things where he has 3 key ingredients for being a really good three-point shooter. He chases space off the ball. He has great shot prep, and everything is repeatable. His mechanics. Yes. There's probably this clip you could probably go back and find. It's been over social media. He had this step back 3 against Jerice Walker. And that was my wow moment with him. The balance. And that's the thing that caught my eye when studying his game prior to coming to the league. As I noted in my draft profiles article I wrote on him months ago, but also in my draft guide that I have on my Substack, is he has incredible lower body flexibility when it comes to his step backs, when it comes to, he likes getting guys that are smaller than him on the block and just rising up the mid-range jumper.
He loves it.
He has a 7'2" and a quarter wingspan. So when he already has a high elevation on his shot. So like with his ball placement, that shot's impossible to block, and his touch is money. I want to say someone said in college he shot 56% on non-rim twos.
I remember that. I remember that stat coming out. It was crazy.
It was insane. But I think the thing too that's enticing defensively, like I think there's always stuff to learn defensively. And the thing is, you gotta be careful when judging defensive players on both sides of the spectrum, really. There's on the positive end, on being too positive, there's so many intricacies of defensive coverages that we don't know about, where we might be like, oh, that was an awesome defensive play, but they could have actually just like blown the coverage and made up for it. But on the other side, there's people can get too down on a guy where it's like, oh man, they're giving up these buckets. But like when you're guarding the league's elite, they're going to score on you.
Yeah, that's been the thing with him, is he's taking the tough matchups.
Like there was these moments where it's like Devin Booker he caught fire in that second half of the game last week, but there was that one moment where Cedric Howard met him at the apex on a mid-range jumper, and you're like, yo, like the thing that's super intriguing with him is Tomas Gisela, the head coach, pointed this out. His role versatility and his defensive growth can go in numerical ways. He can either be a point of attack defender guarding multiple positions. He could be a weak side rim protector. He's active on the glass, and he can also kind of wreak havoc, creating stocks. Like there's just so many different directions that he can go. And I made the argument too that the thing that's enticing is the Grizzlies have had a lot of great perimeter defenders, a lot of good ones even in this era. Jalen Wells has already shown he can be a great defender. Dylan Brooks. I don't like to toot my own horn a lot, but I was ahead on Dylan Brooks as a defender, where I'm like, this guy is going to be able to guard. And he has become an elite point of attack defender. D'Anthony Melton, Kyle Anderson is like these chaos traders. Jake Laravia, another stocks guy in the right place, right time. But none of those guys had versatility with like the different assignments that they can take, but none of them had role versatility, as in one possession they may be defending at the point of attack, but the next one they could be on the low side protecting, and then
they're not
rotating
plug
over
and play.
Protecting
They're
the rim. Situational, yeah, but like they have very specific roles where Cedric Howard doesn't. So I just think that everything's smooth, everything's repeatable, and there's multiple pathways for him to succeed. And quite frankly, with all this hoopla going on, Cedric Howard is one of the most polished players I've ever heard. Like he sounds like a 10-year vet. He has the mentality of a guy that has had like playoff scars. Like he's the real deal. I don't want to say what his ceiling is. I can say players he reminds me of, but it is unfair to put these ceilings and these comparisons on players because everything's not 1-to-1. But he's been the bright spot. I want them to continue pushing the horizons, because we just saw what happens when you do that with guys of that archetype. Like look at Jalen Williams in OKC.
Oh yeah, for
sure. Like not even saying, oh, he's going to become Jalen Williams, but like put him in these situations and see what can happen, because they also need that third star now that Desmond Bane's gone, and I think Cedric Howard is very equipped to handle that.
Yeah, he just blows my mind. Like you said, the repeatableness and the smoothness of his game. One of the clips that I had highlighted when I talked about Cedric probably 2 weeks ago is there's this one clip of him coming off of a screen, and I think he's coming from the left side of the arc. I can't remember who sets the screen for him, maybe Jared Jackson Jr., but sets the screen. Cedric Howard comes around and hits a corner three in motion, which like in a vacuum looks really routine, but the shocking part was just how routine it looked for him and how smooth he comes off those screens. And the ability to have a player that you can either play as an off-screen shooter or can handle the ball. The ball handling is something I've been really impressed with, just because I didn't see the Grizzlies giving him as much of a ball handling role, but they've kind of had to, you know, I mean, with all the drama, the injuries, it's kind of a blessing in
disguise. It's really the
injuries.
The injuries for sure. Like no Ty Jerome, no Scottie Pippen Jr. They lose a lot of ball handling, and I think he's done pretty well with that.
Oh yeah, he's done for a player who wasn't projected to handle the ball a lot, like immediately at the next level. He's done phenomenal, and I don't think there's much more you could ask for. Of course, that 48% from three is probably going to drop down because almost nobody is able to sustain that, but it's not really a problem when you have a rookie who, like you said, looks like a 10-year vet. But of course, he's kind of the pie in the sky guy, and that's been the positive of the Grizzlies season. I'm pretty sure that's what the majority of people would point to as like, this is really good, this is awesome. But of course, the Grizzlies are 12th in the West as of recording this. So what is the one thing that you've disliked from the Grizzlies thus far overall?
I mean, I feel like there's the obvious answer. But however, I'll spin it. What's your rating? Like am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, I can bleep you out.
They've shot like let's be real. All right, let's just look. I have the basketball reference page pulled up here. This is actually going to like sound pretty comical when you think of this. All right, Grizzlies starting lineup: Ja Morant, 13.9% on 5.1 attempts per game from three, 39.3% overall. Jalen Wells, 31.8% from the field, 22% from three. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 32.4% from the field, 31.4% from three. And then stretched down further in the rotation. Santi Aldama, 43.5% from the field, 29.4% from three. Take into account the starting five, the two best shooters right now are their 4 and their 5. Jock Landale, 55.6% from three. Jaren Jackson Jr., 39.4% from three.
Also Jock Landale's on low volume too. So it's like really your only real shooter is JJJ.
Yeah, like your 3 most frequent shooters in your starting lineup are your 3 worst shooters in that lineup. And yeah, if you look at it, I do want to give shouts to somebody while we're on this convo. I've been trying to get a stat head query on this, but Cam Spencer right now shooting 45% from three, and he's doing it on high volume, shooting 9.3 threes per 36 minutes. And he's also dishing out over 7 assists per 36 minutes and under 3 turnovers per 36.
Wow, I didn't know that.
When you kind of put together like who's doing all that stuff, it's actually kind of fun to. I mean, granted, like you have stars, but like even then you have comparable guys doing that right now with Colin Gillespie and Reed Shepherd. It's just but I was kind of concerned, like, okay, will Cam Spencer get minutes? And now it's like, can you afford to not?
Do you have to give him minutes? Yeah,
like, he's been good. But yeah, just the offense, just with the way. And that's the thing that's so bothersome is like if shots were just falling, like KCP, like he's going to normalize. He did it last year. It's so odd. Like he did the same.
His case is really peculiar to me. Like his case blows my mind where he went from being able to shoot lights out for, a couple seasons and then everything's just collapsed. And the shocking part is it's not like his shot difficulty has gone up. It's he's standing in the corners or he's on, maybe right or left wing and he's taking catch and shoot looks or maybe take a dribble, take a shot as the guy closes out. And he just isn't knocking him down. And I mean, you look at it and it looks like they should fall.
The thing that's actually like really bizarre, granted you don't take much from preseason, but Wells and Caldwell-Pope are both shooting the ball extremely well in the preseason.
They were.
And they're just not falling. That's kind of, and I will actually say something that I will say is the thing that probably spooks me the most when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies right now. Besides the actual fiasco, I'm going to talk about something on the court with it. Ja Morant, offensive rating when the Grizzlies are on the floor. 110.1 offensive rating when Ja Morant is off the floor. Keep in mind, the Grizzlies are missing Ty Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr. So it's not like they have like two of the better backup guards like behind him and say, oh yeah, they're cooking second unit. It's like they're good. The Grizzlies offense when Morant is off the floor, 116.67 offensive rating. That number would be right in the middle, like it'd be right at 15th in the league. They would have the league average offensive rating.
Without Ja.
Without Ja. And the offensive rating with Ja on the floor equates to a bottom 5 offense. There's no way to spin it. That's just not good enough.
No, not at all.
You know, you just have to, and I think also too, the bigger thing that's a little worrisome with that is the 3-point differential between two teams. I just saw this on PBB stats, but the Grizzlies are shooting under 28.5% from the field and the Ja Morant minutes, which again, like we've just talked about, Jalen Wells and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope also not shooting the ball well. But in those minutes, their opponents are shooting 40% from 3. So, yeah, I actually, now that we've kind of gone full circle, that is my least favorite part. It's just about how the offense actually looks worse with Ja Morant on the floor, even though they don't have Ty Jerome or Scottie Pippen Jr. Because if your offense doesn't look good with Ja Morant, then just throw the entire season away.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with that is you watch the minutes that Ja Morant is in, and of course, you know, we'll get to the broader implications of this, but his jumper, as you said, has been horrendous. And it's not only that his jumper has been horrendous, it's the fact that he's taking a lot of jump shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like his 5 of 16 performance against the Pistons, like a lot of those were jump shots, and a lot of them were either top of the key or they were mid-range. This is one of the things that I've noted before is Ja Morant reminds me a lot of a worse version of Russell Westbrook in the sense that when the game catches up to him, he does not change. So his jumper is something that he should have at least become capable of. And he's shown flashes of it, right?
Right.
But the inability for him to keep the defense honest is problematic when his one skill that everybody was raving about when he came into the league is get into the paint and dunk on guys, or get into the paint and kick it out. And right now, teams know he can't shoot. So they're going to drop back and they're going to let him take shots. It's the Draymond Green experience. They're going to drop back, let him take shots. And he is going to be faced with essentially a 1 or 2 man wall if a help defender comes, and he can't do anything. And it is, like you said, very concerning, very spooky that not only do you have the leadership concerns, which we'll get to, but the overall sense of he is plateaued. And it's his, 6th, 7th season in the league, something like that?
7th, yeah.
Is it 7th?
Were you going for a 6-7 joke?
No, I wasn't. I thought of that in the back of my mind. I was like, I am not saying this. That's going to go into a clip. That's crazy. But yeah, his 7th season and the lack of evolution of his game is really problematic. And it makes you wonder a little bit, is Ja Morant a product of the system in my mind? Because, like, for example, yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. is out there, but it feels like this team without Desmond Bane by his side at this point in his career is so much worse because that gives him one less 3-point option to work with. I understand why they got rid of Bane. I mean, you have salary reasons, you have all this stuff, right? You wanted to reposition some things. But it screams to me that if you're a superstar in this league, you work with the personnel you have. You know, I mean, you look at Giannis, the extreme example. His personnel is not phenomenal. He has some decent guys, but he lifts everybody. I don't think Ja Morant at this point in his career has proven that he can lift everybody. And like you said, the offense being worse with him is comical.
Yeah, it's not been good. I think also there's, again, and then granted, probably what we'll get into is I do think that there needs to be some sort of flexibility on the coaching staff's part. KYP, you know, they rely a lot on these side actions and might be making the swing over and trying to find an advantage by running like a 2-4 empty corner pick and roll. But you just don't have the quality of ball handling right now in that starting lineup, aside from Ja Morant. Or you don't have Ty Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr. to where it's like, oh, we can run these Ja Ty or Ja Scottie or Scottie Ty lineups and run system. You just don't have that right now. So you got to adjust. But I think the biggest gripe with the fan base right now is the minutes distribution. Usulo is known for burst, like doing sub patterns and burst. And, the minutes substitution patterns, like 3 to 5 minutes, where I think it kind of should, like this, you got to give time for guys to get in a rhythm, and you got to let stuff develop. And again, I do want to give a caveat to, like, they didn't have a lot of their guys in the preseason, so they're still kind of accumulating data on what they have. But you got to let guys cook. On one hand, they need to shoot better, they need to play better. And also, too, the advantage that is supposed to happen with these burst minutes is the fact that you're supposed to just be fresher, play with more energy, and it doesn't work when your team doesn't play with energy. It just doesn't. Probably the most appalling stat I actually saw on ESPN was that Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant are averaging 14 minutes played together on the floor. And granted, right now, Jaren Jackson Jr. is fouling like a madman. He leads the league in fouls at 36 fouls total, and he averages 4.5 fouls a game. That's not going to cut it, to be honest. However, especially in this stretch right now where, like, yeah, more often than not, you could probably get away with, hey, we're going to roll out a Ty Jerome and Zach Edey lineup with, like, Cedric Howard, Jalen Wells, Santi Aldama. Yeah, you could probably get by with that, but they just don't have that depth right now to where you could be like, yeah, let's not play Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. a lot. And granted, I'm a key stagger guy. I love staggering. I always think you should try to have a combination of your best guys on the floor at all times. And then if you're staggering them, cater it to the skill of that star. But it just doesn't feel that way right now. But at the same time, like, you got to shoot better, you got to play better. And I mean, in the case of Ja Morant, look, 20.4 points, has a effective field goal percentage of 41.4. I've laid out to you the offensive rating stuff with you. Negative 0.9 offensive box plus minus, which isn't supposed to happen. And then minus 2.2 defensive box plus minus. Like, if you're the leader of the team, you got to find ways to work with what you got. And it's not what Ja's been doing right now.
Yeah, and one of the things that you kind of have to think of, especially in the context of where we stand in the NBA from a standpoint of contracts and rules with the second apron and stuff. But I'm looking at the contract now of Ja Morant, and currently he is getting paid $39 million this year, and that is going to ascend through 2027-28 for $44 million. Now, Ja was eligible for a contract extension this offseason, and the Grizzlies chose not to extend him. I think that's 100% the smart move, but in the context of that, because there's only going to be 2 more years left on that deal after this season, I know it's early in the season, but a lot of people are like, oh, maybe it's time to trade Ja Morant. Where do you stand on that?
It's one of those things, like, it's tough to figure out, to be honest, because I will say on the extension note, for both parties, it didn't make as much sense for the Memphis for reasons you kind of laid out. There's still 2 years left on his contract, but for Ja Morant, like, it's a chance for him to earn some supermax eligibility that Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't get. So it kind of makes sense on both sides for him to wait. But with trading Ja, I just kind of go with the notion that the Grizzlies and Ja Morant need each other. For the Grizzlies to go to the places that they want to go in the Ja Jaren retool, it involves Ja being an All-NBA player, but also too, like, there's, like, yeah, I've talked about how the offense just hasn't been there for him, and he hasn't impacted the offense that much this year. But at the same time, when he is cooking, he is still one of the more electrifying players in the league. He showed that last week against Phoenix with that game winner at 28, 8, and 7. Season opener, drop 30, hit another clutch time floater. And he just has it, like, when he is himself, when he is having that joy on the court, there's this bravado and this swagger that cannot be replicated. And at the same time, it's like, when he's cooking, he's a superstar level player. And he is a guy that the fan base has rallied around. He's gone through a lot of stuff, and every time the Grizzlies fan base has been there to support him. Granted, this last time was the most animosity I've seen from the media because he quit on this team. He quit on his team against the Lakers. Everybody with a basketball brain saw it.
Well, and his post-game comments made that a lot worse, because I think it's one thing you check out in a game Like, I remember Aaron Gordon's 50-point game for the Nuggets. Jokic checked out at the end of that game, and it went semi-viral on social media. But also, one, it's Jokic. That's the first thing. But two, people are like, oh, yeah, this is terrible. This is such a bad example by Jokic to do during Aaron Gordon's 50-point game. And then it blew over because nobody said anything about it ever again. And Ja Morant's comments after the game being like, I've lost my joy. And then them asking him, hey, what are you going to do to get back your joy? And then he's like, we'll see. I mean, that's going to stir up the media, right? I think the main thing for me when I see Ja is the question of, can he consistently lift this team in a playoff setting where everything slows down? I don't know whether he can or can't. I'm on the fence because he's one of those players that, yes, he's electric. He is phenomenal. But if he doesn't have a jumper, it's very difficult to build around a player like that. But then also, I mean, play devil's advocate here. Is there any point in the past 7 years of all of Ja Morant's career, other than the gun thing, where his value has been lower? Because I think that's one of the things where people are talking about, like, oh, maybe it's time to trade Ja. It's like, how valuable is Ja Morant versus how valuable would Ja Morant have been?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's so many other factors of Memphis has rallied around this guy, and he embodies the Grizzlies at this stage of the franchise. But it's just tough watching him play right now because of the decisions he's making out on the court.
Yeah. And there's also the component of it, like, Memphis needs Ja and Ja needs Memphis,
Right.
Memphis has a system catered around him. They're running a lot of ball screens that's catered around him. And I do think he will look better. Like, there's too much data. Like, there's too much data out there to suggest otherwise. And also the thing,
he'll regress to the mean at a certain level.
At some point.
Right.
And, at some point he's going to get Zach Edey back. And Zach Edey was the most effective pick and roll big man in the league last year.
Yes.
He's going to get back Ty Jerome. He's going to take a creation burden off of him. I don't know when it's going to happen, but Brandon Clark will eventually be back. And then he'll have his wings progress to the mean as shooters. It's going to happen. Like, I think it's all, like, it can all be okay. Like, I do think that both parties, whether it's Ja and Isalo, like, they both need to say, hey, what do we both need to do better? And we'll talk about, let's figure out what we both can do better. What do we need from each other to succeed? Because they have tools and pieces. That's what's so frustrating.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And granted, it doesn't have to be like, oh, they can go to the finals. It could just be like, hey, they're a team that can go to the playoffs and, depending on the matchup, win the series. Who knows? But
well, I mean, we saw the Pacers go crazy this last year. I mean, anything can happen at any point during the playoffs.
Anything can happen. And it's just one of those things where I just hope that, both parties can kind of admit where they're wrong. And like, maybe Isalo handled conflict the wrong way, and maybe Ja handled conflict the wrong way. Yeah. But in the same time, with Ja needs Memphis, no other team will cater a system around him.
It's too tough to cater a system around him. It's the once again, I'll return to the Russell Westbrook problem of, and the difference between him and Russell Westbrook is that I would say Russ was a better passer, but Ja, I think, is still an underrated passer. And Russ was Russ, of course.
Bigger. I'm not going to say better athlete. They're equivalent.
They're pretty equivalent.
Westbrook, still, for all his warts, better shooter.
Oh, yes.
More viable defensively.
Right. But then the problem is you run into the question of, to get to the finals, Russell Westbrook required Kevin Durant and pre-MVP James Harden, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot.
But the reason for that is because of Russ's game. It's not necessarily because of his skill. It's because he needed shooters who could create buckets without him if needed, so that they could play when he's not on the court, right?
Right.
And that's the problem with Ja, is how do you flank him with guys that can create their own shots? Bane was something of that, but Ja still had to mainly create shots for him, or the coaching staff would have to draw up another play. But it's, how do you pair him with a guy that can create their own shots? Cedric Howard has provided some of that in my mind, but he's also a rookie. Jaren Jackson Jr., as good as he is not a shot creator, or not a long horizon shot creator is what I would call it. He can create a shot when he's in the post and, he's got a little bit of the face-up game going. But in general, he's not going to take the ball up the court and just generate a shot. And I think that's the main problem in my mind with the Grizzlies. And like you said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when everybody comes back, when Scotty comes back, when Ty Jerome comes back, because those are two guys that can create their own shots.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree it's a little early to talk about does Ja need to be traded? Like you said, there's all the franchise concerns. But, time's ticking. This feels like the most urgent season of, is the Ja Morant era going to work right now? Because if it doesn't, then you're looking at a roster that they have some paths to improvement, but I wouldn't say they have the ability to completely lift all boats without a star developing from within, like a Cedric Howard.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things for them where the pathway to get back to where you're like, where you could say they can make the Western Conference Finals or they could go to an NBA championship with Ja Morant would require the internal development where it sounds blasphemous to say, but like that involves Cedric Howard kind of just taking an outlier developmental path and becoming your best player or a 1B.
Like a Jalen Williams kind of development curve.
Yeah, or you get very lucky in this 26 draft where you have 2 bites of the apple of a lottery pick and potentially a high one. Because of the Desmond Bane trade, they had the swap rights for the worst pick between the Wizards and the Suns.
It's that weird swap, right? Yeah, it's the one with like 3 teams involved.
Okay, I am actually. Can I just like read this off of my Twitter? Real
Please
quick?
do, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
All right, so the pick swap originally involved Phoenix Wizards. Wizards get the best pick because of the Bradley Beal trade. Then later that summer, the Suns called Orlando and said, "We'll give you a pick swap for 2026 for 3 second-round picks so that they can have more trade utility." Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. They do that. So then the order became Wizards, Magic, Suns. Somehow in a 3-team trade, the Grizzlies managed to convince Phoenix to get in on this pick swap deal for David Roddy, big body Roddy. So then it goes Wizards, Magic, Grizzlies, Suns. Now that's not all. The Suns, because they acquired a 2025 pick, they got rid of the stipend rule. So they traded their 26th pick to Charlotte. So now it is Washington, Memphis, Orlando, Charlotte. And then Orlando traded that swap or that pick, however you want to define it.
Right.
In the Desmond Bane trade. So which leaves Memphis will get the worst pick of Phoenix and Washington and then the best pick of theirs in Orlando. So right now per Tankathon, the Grizzlies will have the 7th pick on their own and the 12th pick because of Phoenix, which, and
a very good draft too.
And incredibly
good draft.
That's their pathways if you're going to kind of stick in the Ja Morant era. Or your pathway to contention is the correct utilization of Jaren Jackson Jr. That one's kind of like, okay, we're keeping an eye on this, not in a sense of like, do we need to worry about Jaren? I don't think there's anything to ever worry about Jaren Jackson Jr. It's more about his utilization offensively. Because I'm looking right now in this very small 8-game sample size, career high in field goal percentage at 53.5%, tying a career high 3-point percentage 39.4, career high 2-point percentage at 60.6. However, he is shooting the lowest amount of field goals per 36 minutes since his rookie season. So he's been the most effective that he's ever been. But he can't get shots.
But just underutilized.
Severely underutilized. We saw last season what happens when you utilize him. He's a monster.
Oh, for sure.
Their pathways involve the correct utilization of Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant being Ja Morant in this Ja Morant era. But yeah, and then just the same thing with Ja being Ja. Like, yeah, he can end up being like, oh yeah, I want out. I want to request a trade. But what teams are letting you rock like how you can rock in Memphis? Let's say he goes to Minnesota. Let's say Minnesota, they want to pair Ja and Ant. You're not going to get to beat Ja. That's Ant's thanks. Team. Yeah. You think Eric Spoelstra is going to let you do that in Miami?
Oh, no. Not at all.
Maybe. I don't
think so. Not in the Heat, they would try to whip him into shape. The only team I could see letting him ride, and even now it's iffy because they have a couple guys coming up, is the Hawks. That is the only team. But of course, to do that, you would have to probably involve Trae Young and all that chaos. That is the only team that I could visibly envision giving Ja Morant the keys and saying, hey, we're just going to play an athletic brand of basketball between you and Jalen Johnson, and Dyson Daniels will clean up on the defensive end. That's the only team I could see. But even then, how much higher of a ceiling do the Hawks have with Ja Morant than Trae Young? So yes, like you said, there's really not a great path to any team unless they want to change the entire identity of their system.
Yeah, I mean, it's depend on the team scene. Like, a team like Sacramento, New Orleans, teams that are kind of thrown out there. It's like, yeah, what are you accomplish? Like, what is that team going to accomplish? And that's
No.
no disrespect at Ja Morant. It's just kind of a case as to why Memphis and Ja, they need each other. Like Houston's gonna be a popular one.
Yeah. But it's like
Ahmed Thompson, Kevin Durant, Opera and Shingun. Like, it's their
thanks.
team, not
well,
yours.
and
like,
if Ja Morant still can't shoot, you run into the same issue that the Rockets have had for a little while before KD is like, hey, can we generate offense from beyond the arc? Yeah, there's not a lot of great options. But, I mean, hey, it's a long season.
That's the reminder. We're 8 games in.
Yeah.
Like, we can look up. Let's say Zach Edey comes back, Ty Jerome comes back. You can look up at Christmas or January. You'd be like, oh, wow, the Grizzlies are 5 games above 500, 6 games above 500.
Yeah, it could happen.
And that Ja Morant stuff looks like a thing of the past.
That's true. That's true. It very well could. And like you said, the Grizzlies have the roster. It's just been a lot of injury stuff. And I mean, Ja Morant's also going to have time to figure out the coaching scheme. Solo. And it's just, it's going to take time. Something to monitor for sure. But like you said, probably not something to completely freak out about yet, unless things continue down this path once Edey and all these other guys come back. But yeah, all that being said, I do have one more thing for you, which I did not tell you about prior to the episode. Okay. And that is some Memphis Grizzlies trivia.
Let's do it.
I have 5 questions for you, and some of them are kind of crazy. Some of them are a little difficult. And previously, I do not think I've had one person get more than 2 out of the 5 correct on the first try. Now I've only done it, 3 times, we'll see, but it's pretty good. So first one, Cedric Coward is currently averaging over 15 points per game and 48% from deep. Now, that's probably unreasonable, so let's assume his 3-point percentage drops down to a still really high 38%. Who was the last Grizzlies rookie to record 15 points per game and 38% three-pointers over the course of a season?
OJ Mayo.
Yes, it is OJ Mayo. Ding, ding, ding.
He's a goat.
You got that quick.
He's one of my goats. Of course I remember that one.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see how this goes. Number 2. Who is the Grizzlies' current record holder of the most assists in a season? This one I think is a little more basic.
And we're not counting Vancouver.
We are counting Vancouver, yes.
I want to go with J. Will.
No.
Do I give you one more
guess? Yep, I'll give you one more.
It's Mike Bibby.
Mm-hmm. It is Mike Bibby. It is Mike Bibby with 685 in the 2000-2001 season. Now, Williams, he was 3rd, 4th, something like that.
Yeah.
Because Bibby actually has the top 2, ironically. He holds both top spots.
Nice.
And then you have Mike Conley as well, is on the list.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be, it wasn't going to be Ja because the game's played, but yeah, no. Okay.
Now, Ja is up there. He's up there, which is why I said I think his passing is a little underrated, but
it's very underrated.
That being said, still. Number 3, Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. are 1st and 2nd in the most points recorded in a Grizzlies quarter ever, franchise history. Can you name the 3rd player?
Can you give me how much they scored?
23 points, 72% shooting from the field in that quarter.
So it had to be somebody that shot the light. Oh, Desmond Bain.
No.
Whoa, okay.
I'll give you one more.
So do I count for 2 for 2 right now since I got on the second try?
Yeah, you count 2 for 2 right now.
Oh, man. I want to still stick with somebody in this modern NBA. I'm going to go with DeAnthony Melton.
No, good guess. Dylan Brooks. 2021, shoot. 23 points in a quarter, 72% shooting from the floor. He caught on fire. That's a tough one because I never would have guessed Dylan Brooks just without looking at it. Number 4, Ja Morant wears number 12 since he was drafted. Who wore the Grizzlies number 12 in the season before he was drafted?
In the season before?
Mm-hmm. In other words, who did Ja take the jersey number from, essentially?
Yuta Watanabe.
Yes, that is correct. That's awesome. That's some sicko basketball stuff. I'm glad you got that one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Last one. Since 2020, the Grizzlies rank number 1 overall in total steals across all seasons since that point. So over the past 5-ish years, with 3,596 total steals to their name. Can you name the other two teams who are number 2 and number 3?
So this
since
is for
2020.
Since 2020, and this is in steals?
The most steals across all seasons.
Oh, gosh. I almost got to look at the teams and just think about their defensive infrastructure.
Yeah, go ahead and look at the names.
Oklahoma City, they haven't been as good. Is it them?
That is one of them. That is one of them.
I want to go ahead and go out on a limb here and guess Chicago for number 2.
No, that is not Chicago. I'll give you one more guess.
One more guess. Let's see. Steals. Houston has been too bad for the majority of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Boston.
No. I was very much surprised by this given the time period. It is the Toronto Raptors.
Okay.
The Toronto Raptors have 3,485 steals since 2020. OKC is number 3 and has 3,418. I would not have guessed Toronto. I would have guessed OKC just because, I mean, you have Dort, you have Caruso the past, year and a half. You have Shea, all these guys that generate a lot of steals. I would not have guessed the Raptors. And it doesn't surprise me that the Grizzlies are number 1. I mean, that's kind of...
No, they've always been big stock.
That's the
big
motto.
Stock people. Yep.
Yeah, that's the motto. But yeah, I mean, overall, you went, let's say 2.5 for
2.5.
5.
I'll take that.
Yeah, that's the all-time record so far. So I'll let you run with that.
I'll take that.
You getting OJ Mayo super quick and Yuta on 4
the
was
Yuta one,
awesome.
because you said the season before, and I remember the Japanese jersey sales went through the roof with Yuta.
Oh,
so
yeah.
all right, cool. I'm glad I got
Awesome.
this.
Yeah, you did awesome. Well, this has been great talking Grizzlies with you. Where can people find you? I know I mentioned your Substack at the beginning, but just kind of give people the overview.
Yeah, so I have a Memphis Grizzlies NBA draft Substack called Subtsakalidis. So one thing I always try to do is I don't put anything behind a paywall. That just hasn't been my MO. If you decide to become a paid subscriber, though, it's just the goodness of your heart. All proceeds go to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for my wife, who's been battling cancer for over 12 years now. So yeah, that's where you can find my work. I appreciate you, Jacob, for having me on your show.
Yeah. It's awesome what you're doing, man. Like you said, everyone, if you become a paid subscriber or just, donate to St. Jude, awesome thing. I saw on your Substack that you guys are currently raising for the Memphis Marathon.
Oh, so we have a marathon team called Alley's Allies. So, it's for the St. Jude Marathon weekend. So you obviously have the 5K, 10K, half marathon. So my wife has a team every year. We have events, we have shirts, all that. But yeah, no, it's fun. So it's been fun doing this project. It's a cool place. And I appreciate the platform as always.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sure I'll be connecting with you later in the season, especially
Absolutely.
Towards draft time, I'm sure, since you're doing a lot of scouting work on your Substack. But yeah, it's been awesome talking to you, man.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate it.
Yep, we're out.